You know how they say when you're young, your hormones are running the show and your brain is on vacation? That was pretty much me. At 18, senior year of high school. I thought I was immortal, or at least cool enough not to be messed with. But it wasn't about me. It was about her, Leah. She was, well, like a sunbeam that fell into the life of a regular American kid who was still partly a Valera, named after my immigrant grandfather. Leah was new in town, with eyes the color of an autumn sky, and somehow we just started spending all our time together. This did not sit well with one guy. His name was Kevin, the classic high school bully with a thick neck, a face that always looked like he'd just bitten a lemon, and too loyal as puppies' sidekicks. Kevin considered Leah his territory, even though she never even looked his way. He started doing that classic stuff, shoving me in the hallways, making stupid jokes when I walked by. I put up with it. I put up with it because Leah asked me to. She hated conflict. But there was one night. It was a Friday night, a football game, we were sitting in the stands, and she was telling me something quietly. I don't even remember what. I was just watching her lips move, seeing her hair glow in the floodlights. And then, Kevin. He came up behind me, shoved my shoulder so hard I almost fell off the step, and said loudly, so everyone around could hear, "Hey, Valera, your grandpa seems to have forgotten to teach you how to treat our girls." Usually, I would have ignored it. But he did two things. First, he used that disgusting, insulting tone when talking about my grandpa. Second, Leah stood up and said quietly, but firmly, "Kevin, get lost. I am not your girl." He laughed, and then his big, stupid hand, reached out and grabbed Leah's elbow. Maybe to push her, maybe to pull her away. And that's when my brain shut off. The world went blurry, and all I could hear was a buzzing in my ears. I don't even remember standing up. I just remember Kevin looking at me in surprise right before I hit him. I hit him harder than I'd ever hit anyone in my life, right on the jaw. The rest was like a bad, fast-forwarded movie. His goons rushed me, we were tumbling over the seats. I felt pain, a lot of pain, but it didn't matter. I saw Leah screaming, people around us panicking. I was hitting because I felt like I was defending something truly precious. It was some kind of primal, stupid teenage masculinity that demanded, "She's mine. You don't touch her." Of course, we caught the attention of the stadium security, and right after them, the local police. Kevin was lying on the ground, holding his face, and his friends were trying to hold me back. When they finally pulled us apart, I was sweaty, panting, with a busted lip, but I felt a strange pride, a very stupid pride. Leah was crying. She was yelling at the cop that Kevin started it, that he grabbed her first. But it was a brawl, and I threw the first punch. I got shoved into the back of a patrol car, a smelly, cramped place with those terrible, hard seats. The Officer Roberts didn't even look at me, just mumbled something into his radio about disturbing the peace in a fight. That's when the door closed and the silence hit, and it washed over me. I looked at my hand. There was blood on it. Whose? Mine? Kevin's? And I thought, "Oh, Valera, you really did it. You're in deep trouble." We got to the station. The small, drab, gray building, I was taken into a little room that smelled of old coffee and disinfectant. I sat on that stiff plastic chair, my lips stinging, watching a clock that seemed to be running backwards. They asked who to call. I gave my mom's number. And that's where the real agony began. Sitting and waiting. Every minute dragged on like an hour. I imagined her getting the call right now. "Mrs. Varenchuk," because they couldn't quite pronounce Valera's last name, "your son Valera is down here." I pictured her face. Stern, disappointed, but with a barely noticeable fear. She always believed in me. And here I was sitting in a police station over a stupid fight. I sat there for maybe 2 hours. 2 hours during which I replayed the whole scene in my head 100 times, trying to find the moment where I could have just walked away, ignored it, avoided it. But no, every time Kevin reached for Leah, I hit him again and again. And then the door opened, and there they were. Dad, tall, serious, in his work jacket that he hadn't even taken off, and Mom, her face etched with worry. No shouting, no reproach, just a deep, heavy silence. It was worse than yelling. Dad nodded at the officer, his shoulders tense. Mom walked up to me without saying a word and just ran her finger gently over my split lip. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly, and there was so much pain in her voice. "I'm fine, Mom. It's fine," I croaked out, which was probably the biggest lie of the night. They spent another hour talking to the officer, filling out paperwork. The cop was actually pretty decent considering. He said that since Kevin wasn't exactly a saint either, and there were witnesses who confirmed his aggression, it would likely be filed as a misdemeanor, not a serious assault, and would result in a fine and community service. But he warned me it would leave a mark. When we left the station, Mom took my arm. Dad walked a little ahead. They didn't talk about the fight. They talked about the weather, about house repairs, about anything but what had happened. But in the car, when we were a couple of blocks away, Dad looked at me in the rearview mirror, and he said only one thing, in his deep, measured voice. "Valera, you did something foolish, very foolish. But," he paused, "you defended her. That doesn't excuse fighting, but I understand why you did it." That, I understand, was more important to me than any lecture. It meant that I had done the wrong thing legally, but the right thing morally. Something that felt, at the time, far more important than any consequence. Valera and Leah broke up a year later anyway. School ended and life pulled us in different directions. But that night in the patrol car, the waiting, my mom's face, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was my first real lesson that protection and love often demand a certain very stupid and painful price, and that maybe that price isn't always worth paying, but you pay it anyway.